Throughout your career, you're always looking to improve. You said you dropped out of college. It didn't matter to you. You wanted to be around entrepreneurs, be around CEOs, and learn as much as possible.
Latinos are scared to go outside the box. We're really safe when it comes to going to college, getting a job, and it's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's a lot more to learn than college, right? When they say your network is your net worth, it's true. And some people, they hear it, they're like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, my network is my network. People don't understand what that actually means.
Welcome to the Latin Wealth Podcast, a podcast dedicated to educating the Latino community about entrepreneurship, investing, and business.
What's going on, Latin Wealth family? Welcome to another episode to the Latin Wealth Podcast. We got another guest on the show today. Very excited to get into his story and overall what he does as an entrepreneur. A little bit about our guest. He is a real estate investor. He has a mentorship program that helps people get into real estate. And he also owns a beautiful Airbnb out in Puerto Rico. We're going to spend some time talking about the process and the steps that he took to start an Airbnb business in Puerto Rico. Welcome to the podcast, Roberto Green. How you doing today, bro?
Chris, thank you, man. I appreciate your time, man. Doing great. Excited to share everything that I've gone through with the villa. And just excited to share the journey, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what's interesting, bro? Like, we've been talking about hopping on a podcast and doing this for a minute now. We definitely got to do something in person in Puerto Rico,
Yes.
probably at the villa.
Yes.
But I was like, you man, let me stop wasting time. Let's just get you on, chop it up, and at least do it virtually.
Yeah, man. No, we got to get it done, man. There's a lot of opportunities in Puerto Rico. Would definitely love to have you over at the villa. We could do an event out there and just connect.
Love that. Love that. Okay, cool. So let's jump right into it. I want to start with your early on in your life. You're originally from Boston.
Yeah.
So you can talk to us about your experience in Boston. But you mentioned a couple of times that your life really started at the age of 20 when you became a father. Right? Talk to us about life in Boston, fatherhood, early on, 20 years old. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So Boston, I was born and raised in Boston. My mother, she's Guatemalan, but she was actually raised in Puerto Rico. And my father, he's Puerto Rican as well, but he was raised in the Bronx. My story, I always start with, when I was 20. I dropped out of college. My girlfriend at the time had my son, and really just it changed my life, right? It was all about him. It was no longer about me. We were living in my mother's house in my bedroom, and it was really me trying to become a father figure for my son. So long story short, I joined a program called Year Up, which is inner city. It was a program for inner city students. I focused in financial operations. At the time, I was working 3 dead-end jobs at a supermarket. I was working at Sears, and I was delivering newspapers in the middle of the night just to get by. And I knew I had to do better. So I started really focusing on my education, did 6 months financial operations, and then 6 months they did an internship at State Street Bank. And that's where I was able to eventually get a job full time. I went from making probably like $6-7 an hour to $15 an hour, which was a huge jump back then.
Mm-hmm.
And it allowed me to get an apartment and a home for my family. Had my daughter 3 years later, and really just started grinding, man. I worked in State Street Bank for 5 years. I got promoted 2 times without a degree. I was just really hungry, really ambitious, always like a sponge looking to learn. And I wasn't afraid to ask questions. I used to talk to VPs. I used to talk to the CEO at one point, and I talked to a lot of high level individuals to really continue to grow my career. Eventually transitioned into JP Morgan, where I became a compliance reporting service officer, worked there for 2 years. And then my life after that just turned around for private reasons, but obviously,
Yeah,
things
yeah,
happen in
yeah.
life, and just try to keep moving forward. So,
Absolutely. So let me back it up a little bit. You spoke about fatherhood at the age of 20. What are some of the things that you learned about yourself having a child at the age of 20, you're trying to figure it out, living with your mother and whatnot. What were some things that you learned about yourself in that process?
I would say that I was responsible. I took responsibility for for obviously my actions at the time. I would never turn my back on my family and my kids, so I was there for them. I had a great father figure. I love my father. He was always there for me, and just like me with my kids, I wanted to replicate that and be there for them. And take it a little bit step ahead. Just working hard, trying to think outside the box. I didn't have a degree, so I had to work a lot. I felt like I had to work a lot harder.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna lie, like I was depressed a lot of times, living at my mother's house with my girlfriend or my wife at that time, and with my son. Like we literally lived in a room. I had like a queen size bed, and then the crib was right there, in the same room. So like there was a lot of times where like I really just got depressed, right? Because I felt like I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't good enough. I was never making enough money. I couldn't afford a nice home for my kids and my family. So there was a lot of moments where like I was really hard on myself. It caused a lot of anger, depression, anxiety, throughout the years. But I definitely knew that I should have, in hindsight, right, looking at it now, like I definitely should have spoken more about it
Mm-hmm.
and stopped bottling things up,
Bottling it up,
because
yep.
that really just affected the situation negatively.
And so for you, when did that shift happen where you begin to gain a little confidence? You begin to see yourself in a higher light. Was it when you started to be in the corporate setting, or when was that internal shift for you?
I would say when I got into the corporate setting, the Europe program was an amazing program for me. It really changed my life. It's a great stepping stone between high school and college.
Mm-hmm.
What they try to do is try to go from college to corporate America and bridge that gap. It was really needed for me because I didn't know that there was a whole world in corporate, right? I
Mm-hmm.
didn't understand that from high school. For me, it was just being exposed to a different environment, understanding like, hey, you can make 15, 20, 30, $40 an hour. And that really got me ambitious and
Yeah,
continuing to grind it out. So the more I
that's good.
connected with people inside corporate, the more I wanted to climb the ladder. But then the more I climbed the ladder, the more I felt like I was stuck in a rat race.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
that's when I started thinking different. And I've always been entrepreneur minded. At one point I had a clothing line. I used to use food stamps to buy food, to create meal plans for people
Mm-hmm.
that wanted to eat healthy. At one point, I had a career coaching business where I would recreate resumes for people so that they can get better paying jobs. I was always looking for something. I owned a
Yeah.
restaurant at one point. It did fail, but I did learn a lot, and it
Mm-hmm.
helped me with my other restaurant that I ended up opening after corporate America, because I did leave corporate in
Yeah.
2017, and I've never worked corporate since. I ended
Yeah.
up owning a restaurant, and that restaurant went from $100,000 in sales to over $500,000 in sales because I was more business savvy, learned more about marketing, and I really just restructured and reorganized that business to the point where we were the first Latino owned restaurant in Harvard history, and
Mm.
we were also the first Latino owned business in MIT University. So we did
Wow.
expand to 4 different locations, but it was huge, and it was just like getting rid of that limiting
Mm-hmm.
mindset factor for sure.
That's good. Now, there's a lot to unpack there, and I'm curious, man. What in the corporate setting that you learned, whether it's about yourself, whether it's being around other people, CEOs, connecting with people, that you were able to apply to scaling a restaurant business? I mean, restaurant business is not an easy
It's like,
game to play at all. Most people would stay away from it, but you decided to leave the corporate setting to jump into this restaurant. You helped the business. What were some of the things that you learned that you were able to apply to that business to turn it around?
great question. I would say it was structure. It was learning systems and processes.
Mm.
So in corporate, everything was like an SOP, standing operating
Yeah.
procedure. So it's like documenting procedures, learning how to make them better. Efficiency was huge for me out there too. Um, really understanding what the end goal is and working backwards, right? It's all about driving in revenue, creating sales, and doing marketing. So what I did with the restaurant was just rebranded it, focused on where the majority of the revenue had potential, which was catering, and then created procedures for it. You know, uh, the procedures and the systems is really what helped it out. To operation wise is what it helped to make it function
Yeah.
as a whole. But
That's good.
at our peak, we were probably making anywhere between $40,000 to $60,000 a month in sales, with
That's
catering alone.
that's really interesting because uh, maybe you guys did do some things different with the menu, but most people think like if you were to scale a restaurant, they're thinking, oh, they probably changed the menu or maybe something. They made something taste better, or they had a hot seller or something like that. But for you, you looked at it from the first off the end to the beginning, and you also looked at the operation. How is this thing being ran? Do we have SOPs? SOPs are really important because now you can kind of plug and play people in here. We're not just going through the motion. Everybody has a purpose when they're working here, right? And I'm sure you're able to eliminate costs doing that and restructure some things. And you found that catering is kind of the bread and butter. And so it sounded like you guys went in on that. So I love that you looked at it from that perspective. Again, I think most people from the other side, they're thinking, okay, maybe they're selling an item that went viral or something, but you're looking at it from the business side of it.
100%, 100%.
Cool. So, all right. So, talk to me about the transition out of the restaurant business, the restaurant industry. What made you transition out of there? And what was that next thing that you were interested in? I think I was listening to a podcast, and you said that there was somebody that had a shirt or something like that that said, "We buy homes for cash," and it sparked your interest, and that was probably the next thing. But
Yeah.
talk to me about like, okay, you're finding success in this restaurant business. Why leave and do something else?
COVID-19.
Okay, there it is.
COVID-19 changed
That's all you had to
everything.
say.
COVID-19 changed the game. You know, a lot of restaurants closed, a lot of restaurants lost business. They still haven't fully recovered, in my opinion.
Right.
So I was looking for an alternative income, right? We were still running the restaurant, but it wasn't as profitable as it was in prior years. So one of my clients was, well, customers at that point came in with a shirt that said "I buy houses cash." So it obviously piqued my interest. Long story short, I connected with him, asked him what he does. He told me that he fixes and flips houses. I was just interested about that concept. So I ended up hiring him as my coach, and he taught me everything like full circle from how to find deals, how to fund them, how to fix them, and how to flip them. A great mentor, taught me a lot, and I ended up learning and then getting into the fix and flip industry to the point where I became a fix and flip instructor. So I started fixing and flipping houses in Boston. I've also done wholesaling, which is something new that I ended up learning on my own through different mentorship programs. I joined FI Investors, which was an amazing mentorship program that is run by Diego Corzo, and really just started exposing myself, you know, Read Rich Dad Poor Dad and all the books, to really start immersing myself into real estate because I had an understanding of what it was, but I didn't know that it was a whole world behind it, right? And there's still so much that I'm learning. But I ended up becoming a private lender at one point. I had invested in cryptocurrency. In 2016, it went really well. And I had a good chunk of money that I wanted to continue to grow. Lended it, almost lost it because I didn't have the right paperwork. Took me almost 2, 3 years to recover it. And I kept going. I kept learning. And I started fixing and flipping. I saw six-figure checks. I had bought a house in 2017, bought it for 320, sold it a couple of years later for 550. Saw another really great check, and it really started opening my eyes of the amount of money that could be made. Then obviously after 2021, 2022, Um, Really, I just started immersing myself in education, the
Mm-hmm.
mentorship programs, reading, learning, networking, and just connecting with people. And then I started learning a little bit more about Puerto Rico. I used to
Mm-hmm.
go to Puerto Rico for vacation, but then I started learning about Puerto Rico as for investment opportunities in real estate. And then that's when I started learning about Airbnbs, short-term rentals, and really the whole world that I was missing out on with just short-term rentals in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I want to hop in here real quick, bro. One thing that I'm observing from your story and throughout this conversation is one thing you're not afraid to do is invest in yourself,
Uh,
invest in education. Like from day one or from the first minute we're talking about, you're like, yo, I'm in this program. I got this person as a mentor. I'm buying this. And I think that definitely needs to be highlighted, especially in our community, because I think we could be so on edge or afraid to first off educate ourselves, and then second reach out to people that are in a position that we want to be in and see if they have a mentorship program and invest in that mentorship program and see what you can get out of it. So I think that that's super dope that throughout your career you're always looking to improve. You said you dropped out of college. It didn't matter to you. You wanted to be around entrepreneurs, be around CEOs, and learn as much as possible from them. And I think that's it goes a long way.
no, it's true, and it's like you gotta to add to that. You know, Latinos are scared to go outside the box. You know, we're really safe when it comes to going to college, getting a job, and it's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's a lot more to learn than, just college, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even education, I will argue, it doesn't end with getting a degree. You're constantly learning, you're constantly growing. The world is always changing. So it's important for us to learn and adapt to it, right? And
Yeah.
that's really where I have a passion for continuing to educate Latinos and just helping people that want to be helped. Because again, I can't help you if you don't want to be helped. And a lot of
For
people,
sure.
you talk to them about the prices with these mentorship programs, and they walk away because they think it's a scam.
Walk away. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yes, there are scammers out there, but there's a lot of really great programs and educators. I would just say educate yourself more on the person that's actually teaching. Do you want to become like them? Have they achieved the goals that you want to achieve? Are they ahead of you? And really understand that point. But as far as like self-education, it's the best investment you can make. A lot of people have money, don't know what to do with it. The first thing I tell them is invest into your education, invest into yourself, because there's nothing that's going to pay you higher returns than you learning on your own
Mm.
with throughout other mentors and throughout people that have already achieved the success that you want to achieve.
I love that. So at this point, you've explored and touched on almost every aspect of real estate. You kind of done wholesaling, buying and flipping. You sold your personal resident, lending. So you're a little bit of everywhere now. You're learning about Puerto Rico. You're learning about Airbnbs. Talk to us about this. Let's jump into this conversation about this process and how do you even start, right? I'm assuming at this point you're in Boston still. What is like the first step to starting an Airbnb business in Puerto Rico?
Education, bro. The education is key. Like you got to understand the numbers, because like everybody, a lot of people that I speak to, like a lot of the new investors, because I talk to hundreds of them all the time, they're like, "Oh, I want to buy an Airbnb in Puerto Rico." Cool. For
Mm,
what? What?
mm,
How much are you looking to make? I don't know. I just want to invest in Puerto Rico. They don't understand what the numbers mean, what it looks like, what it means to invest in real estate, right? People don't understand numbers, and that bothers me, because there's a lot of uneducated deals that happen that
mm,
will give people the misconception that real estate is bad. It's not that real estate is bad. It's that you're not making an educated decision in your real estate investment. And I can say that because I bought property. I bought over 10 properties in Ohio, right? Everybody was going crazy with Ohio at one point. There's a lot of opportunity out there, but you really need to understand and know what you're doing, right? The numbers, yes, I was making some good cash flow, but it wasn't worth the headaches that I was dealing with.
mm.
So when people tell me that they want to invest in real estate, I'm like, okay, well, how much are you going to be making if you buy this property at this price? They have no clue. And if you don't know what you're getting yourself into, like you're not spending $1,000 to buy real estate. You're spending tens of thousands of dollars. So just to put a down payment on a property, right? So people don't understand that aspect. What got me into Puerto Rico was really understanding the numbers, and that was because of the program that I joined, FI Investors. Getting into Puerto Rico, the short-term rental, you're really on your own, and this is why I created the short-term rental course, because it's literally puts everything step by step, starting with how to understand the market, how to understand the numbers, how to analyze a deal, how to put the deal together, how to renovate it, how to fix it, how to put it together, how to manage it as a short-term rent. Like there's so many pieces that go behind. I'm gonna buy a short-term rental in Puerto Rico. It's not simple as much as people want to make it seem online. It's possible. It's lucrative if you know exactly how to do it. So what got me out there was really just spending time out there, understanding the market, learning the market. It took me 2-3 years before I bought the first property, right? But it's because it took me that much time to really go understand and get educated. Now it doesn't have to take somebody else 2-3 years, because obviously I'm here. I went through all the ups and downs, so now I'm the mentor that can come in and teach individuals. Hey, this is a good market. This is a good property. Let's look at the numbers. Let's run through this and let's make it happen. Because everybody doubted me with the villa. Like the villa was it. Just to give perspective, when I found it, it was on Craigslist. Not on Craigslist, Clasificados online. The owner was selling it for $350,000.
And how big is it?
It's 2,000 square feet and it has 2 acres of land.
Okay.
But what sold me was the view, because you can literally see, if you know Puerto Rico, you can see from Viejo San Juan to El Yunque. To put that into perspective is like, imagine going onto the mountain and seeing 5 different cities in the horizon, plus the ocean. Like it's an amazing view. So to me, this was $1 million property, but the banks didn't think so, because when you take it to the bank and I got it appraised, they appraised the property for $180,000. The uneducated investor would have gone in there, paid $350,000 for that property. So that's another issue that's happening. People are overpaying for houses, not just in Puerto Rico.
Why did they appraise? Sorry to cut you off. Why did they appraise it so low compared to what the seller was selling it at?
They're going based off comparables, right? So you can ask for $1 million on a house, but if the market doesn't say, hey, these houses have sold for $1 million, like no, you can't sell it. The bank won't approve it. So based off the comparables, and it was just a gutted property. Everything needed to be done. It didn't have anything in it. So it was just basically a shell. So $180,000 was what I ended up buying it for. And then $175,000 is what I renovated into the property. So a lot of people didn't believe me, and they was like, what are you doing? Like, that's not a good deal. But I understood the numbers because I was on Airbnb. I studied AirDNA. I knew what I can get per night, the average daily rate. I could make $500 a night.
How do you know you can get that number?
AirDNA. So it's a software system that will pull comparables in the Airbnb market, and it'll tell you, hey, 4 bedrooms will generate 300, 5 bedrooms will generate 450, 6 bedrooms will generate 500. So it gives you an idea of what you can potentially charge per night. Then you need to understand your occupancy rate. What percentage out of the month can you rent this out for? Rule of thumb is 65%. It's a conservative number, meaning 20 to 21 days out of the 30, you're going to be rented. So 20 times 500 is what? $10,000. So I was going through the process, going through the struggles, going through all the, hurdles of putting this deal together, because I knew it could potentially generate $10,000 a month. That's a deal that makes sense for under $400,000 all in. Like, you're not going to find that. It's really hard to find that anywhere in the States. Once I understood the numbers, I understood the deal. I'm like, okay, I'm going to make this work. and I just did everything I had to. I could have quit so many different times, Chris. Like there was so many times for me to quit. I cried. I was
Mm.
stressed out. I was
What
nervous.
what what were some of the reasons that would have made you or somebody else quit? Like, what were you going through? What were you dealing with?
Bro, the water went out.
Mm.
It's in a rural area and the infrastructure in Puerto Rico isn't the best, right? The power went out. So I was staying there working and then the water would go out. I would shower in gallons of water
Mm.
because there was no water. I would like there was no electricity at one point. So I was in the room burning because the AC
Mm.
went out. So like it was a mental, it was really mental more than anything. And I would this is when your group of friends would come into place, like your circle for support. Yo, keep going, bro. Don't worry about it. You got this. You know, think about the long term. Like this is a great investment. My partners that I had at the time, you know, I couldn't let them down because I did have a lot of money into the deal. So I just kept going, man. And at the end of the day, it's for your kids, you know, generational
Mm.
wealth, right? So I'm like, you know what? I called my kids. I'm like, I love you, da da. But I kept going. And a lot of it, again, was because I was venturing into new waters. So it's like you're kind of pioneering your way into it. So it's like, obviously, you're going to have to go through some stuff. But having gone through all of that, like now I understand, how to do it better, right? The next time I
Mm.
get into this, like, it's a really great project and it worked. And now I know things that I would have done in the beginning, like get a water cistern. So when the water does go out, I still have running water. Get solar panels or a generator, because in that way, if the electricity goes out, I have backup. So like everything that people want to invest in Puerto Rico, great, but work with somebody who's already gone through it. Otherwise, you're gonna go through all the trials and tribulations yourself. And there's a huge lesson that my mother taught me, and it's because I was really hard headed as a young adult. But it was, you can either learn from your mistakes or other people's
Mm.
mistakes, and the best way to learn is learning from other people's mistakes. Right? Some of us have to go through our own trials and tribulations, and I get it. That's fine. If that's your way of learning, great. That was my way of learning. But when you look at it in hindsight, I would have rather learned from other people's mistakes. So that was a huge lesson to me that my mother always taught me. And for me, there's a lot of opportunity in Puerto Rico. There's a lot of controversy as well. I found out after about short-term rentals in Puerto Rico, but it's a lot of work, man. It's not simple. It's not like I can do this stuff for cheap. Construction,
Yeah.
labor have all gone up. So as much as I would love to, go buy and sell cheap properties to the locals, it's almost impossible because of the construction costs. But
Mm.
regardless, I went out there, I grinded it out. It took me 8 months to fully renovate that property, which is really great because I come from fixing and flipping experience. So I was able to move a lot faster than most. But man, c- I I also enjoyed it. I can't complain. Like, I stayed in Puerto Rico a lot. I was there every month. I would stay in the villa, wake up to amazing sunsets and sunrises. So I did enjoy my time out there as well, right? It wasn't
Mm.
all bad. But when I tell you, when I first listed it on the short-term rental on Airbnb in June 2024, and it rented for just 2-3 weeks, and we generated $7,000.
How quickly did it book after you listed it? So right when you posted it, how soon did it?
A couple days, it was already booking up.
Yeah, bro. I'm
Do-
not gonna lie. Like I can see that because, and we'll put pictures and videos throughout this conversation. But it's beautiful. Like you guys, you guys have, and I'm not just saying that because you're here, but you guys killed it with this property.
Thank you,
So I
man.
can see how it's doing so well. But let me ask you this: so you bought it for 185. You put 175 into it. That you said 175 or 170?
I bought it for 180, and then I spent about 175 into the renovations.
So 175. That number, as you're doing your due diligence and you're coming up with your numbers initially, was that like around the ballpark of what you thought you were going to put into it, or was it additional costs over time that you're like, okay, we got to get this, we got to get that, and the number kind of grew?
Great question. There were additional costs. I ate a lot of that through credit cards and having some
Mm-hmm.
cash on hand. So I ate up some of that cost, additional cost. We had to get another investor in there to help fund some of that rehab cost.
Mm-hmm.
And the deal didn't play out the way I wanted to because it didn't appraise for what I was hoping it would appraise for. Again, because the comparables were not there. And that's the biggest risk factor. If your house doesn't appraise for a specific
Mm-hmm.
amount, you can only get so much money back when you do a refinance.
Yeah. How much did it
So
appraise for?
250, bro.
Really?
It was a
That's
slap to the
wild.
face.
That's wild.
It was a slap to the face. 250, and that's the biggest challenge in Puerto Rico, the appraisal values. It makes it so much
Wow.
it makes it very difficult. But at the same time, it works to your favor as a buyer because if it appraises
Yeah.
for 250 and you get this amazing house for two, like it's great. But when you're trying to do it as an investor and trying to sell it that's why a lot of properties in Puerto Rico, the owners will say it's not contingent to an appraisal. So they'll ask for
Mm-hmm.
400,000. If an investor from the States comes and buys it for 400, it sells for 400. But the owners also know what they're doing, right? Because if it's subject to appraisal, they're not gonna get $400,000 for the house. They'll probably get like 250 or less.
Mm.
So that's where there's a lot of discrepancies. It's causing a lot of issues on the island because it's also making it unaffordable. Hence, your Bad Bunny album about how it's potentially turning into Hawaii because
Mm-hmm.
you have investors that are coming from the outside buying. And it wouldn't be a problem if the income was also
Right.
increasing in Puerto Rico, but the average income in Puerto Rico is like $25,000, man. Like people can't afford it. And this is why you're getting a lot of pushback
Mm-hmm.
from locals. They don't want that.
So yeah, let's talk about that because you mentioned when I sent you a DM, you're like, yeah, we can talk about it, and then you said I realized that locals are not a fan of the short-term rentals
They're not.
and Airbnbs and whatnot. So talk to us about like some of the pushback you received. Like were people sending you emails or DMs, or were they, what did that look like? That pushback.
No, it was, and I didn't even know that it was the way they felt about it until like I had an interview done by one of the locals. We're talking about the potential in Puerto Rico, how much I want to help Puerto Rico. Because again, I'm Puerto Rican. It's like I'm going back, and to me, I'm
Mm-hmm.
buying back my land, right? That could have gone to another outside investor, and I ended up buying it myself. And I thought people would be proud of me, and they were just the opposite. They were like, "Oh, gringo, go home," and I'm like, "I'm not gringo. I know my Spanish is broken, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm one of you guys." But they don't like it because it's increasing the prices on the island for them. When people overpay, I'm not gonna overpay. I could have bought that house for 350, and I could have, that would have been me being ignorant buying it. I didn't know. So I bought it for whatever the bank told me to buy it for, which was 180. So I'm like, okay, perfect, 180. But even still, they find that expensive. Because for me to have a profitable deal, like I spent 175 into it. I can't sell the house for 200,000, which is what they can
Mm-hmm.
afford. I would have to sell it for $400,000 or $500,000 or more. And that's me just coming in and renovating it. That's the bare minimum that I could have done. The reason why I
Right.
made it short-term rental was because financially, that's the only way that deal would have even made sense.
So okay, so that's good. So when you bought it, were you thinking short-term rental? Were you
Yeah.
thinking
Short-term rental all day. That was my
okay,
goal. Because people do
okay,
short-term rentals in Condado, San Juan, in Isla
mm-hmm.
Verde. Like that's what they do. So to me, I'm like, oh, let me see if I can find a nicer view of Puerto Rico
Mm-hmm.
and have tourists come really enjoy Puerto Rico, like what
Right,
locals see. Because locals have amazing views in some areas. And to me, I just wanted to share those views. But to my surprise, I was like, oh, they don't like this. So I'm like, oh, okay, sorry. But at the end of the day, I'm also Puerto Rican and I'm just adapting to the changing environment, right? You
mm-hmm.
can't stop it, then change it. So then that's why I'm focused more on just educating Puerto Ricans, educating whether they're locals, whether they're back home. Obviously educating everybody. I can't discriminate and I'm not going to, but I'm just putting out the education so that people have an understanding of, let's buy back the land, and let's increase our income. How else are we going to increase the income of the locals?
Yeah.
We're getting rid of the schools. The infrastructure sucks.
Yeah.
And the schools, like, you need education. So to me, it's educating our people and just people in general on what it really takes to invest into a short-term rental. It's not easy, but it's doable. So
Interesting. So let me ask you this. You mentioned that you needed to find some outside investors to help you out with the deal. Did you have these relationships built ahead of time through the different programs that you're a part of and whatnot? How can one find outside investors, maybe if they're not in a program, or where would you suggest for them to look?
yeah, when they say your network is your net worth, it's true.
Mm-hmm.
And some people, they hear it, they're like, "Oh, that's cool. Yeah, my network is my network." People don't understand what that actually means.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you need to be surrounded with people that have money in the bank. Not your friends that are, with the Gucci belts and the Louis Vuittons and all that fun stuff in the clubs. They're broke. 100%, like 90% of them are broke. Because rich people that I've met, they don't like showing off their money. Like the real ones, like the humble one, like they have bank, man. You wouldn't even be able to tell if you look at them. They look homeless half the time. So to me, it's your network, right? And how do you change your network? You need to change your environment. You need to connect with new people. The best and easiest way is to join mentorship programs where people have this type of capital, right? If you want to get into real estate and invest in real estate, it just makes sense for you to join real estate programs with other real estate investors who have capital that are looking to invest. The limiting belief that we have about money is that it's scarce. It's not scarce. There's more money out there now than there was before COVID. Like, they printed more money than ever, right? The money's out there. People want to invest their money. They just are scared or don't know where to invest into. So the aha moment for me was, if I really understand how to put a deal together and understand the numbers and know how to analyze the deal, I'm not asking people for money. I'm presenting to them an opportunity to earn anywhere between 8 to 12% interest on their money, and maybe even more depending on the actual deal. But if you don't know how to handle $100,000 and how to make at least 8 to 12% on 100 grand, why would I give you 100 grand? Right? That's the limiting belief that people have. I don't care how broke you are. Educate yourself on how to put deals together, and it'll change your life completely. Because I've raised over $250,000 and even more with other deals in the States. But once you understand how to put a deal together, I think that's what people need to be focusing on. Because once you have a deal, then it's like, hey, I can offer an opportunity where you can make 8 to 12% interest on your money. The banks can't do that. The stock market is all over the place. People are looking for opportunity of where to put their money, which is why I created this program, because people that want to invest their money need to first be educated on that. And then they can start investing $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 or more. But if I were to go to anybody, even anybody listening to this podcast, I'll give you $100,000 if you can make me 10 to 15% return. So then I want people to start thinking more creatively. Wow, like Roberto's over here, he, like, the money's there. Pretend the money's not the problem. The money's there. There's people there with HELOCs, especially now after the home prices have gone up substantially. There's people that have $100,000, $50,000. I could raise that all day. The challenge is learning how to put the deal together so that you can go to somebody and present to them, hey, for $50,000, there's an 8 to 12% return that you can get by getting into the short-term rental. Right now, the short-term rental that we have is making anywhere between $10,000 to $15,000 a month. A month.
Wow.
Who wouldn't want to invest in that opportunity? So now that I have the proof of concept, now I can go and be like, well, I'm going to replicate this model. Here's the property. Here's the numbers. Here's a new opportunity. And this is what we can potentially make. Right? It's not just a risk at that point. It's a calculated risk.
Right.
And that's the difference. But the money is out there. So, like, anybody listening to this, like, get into masterminds, join programs where people have money, even if it costs you $3,000 to $5,000 to get into that program. It's you proving that you're not there to waste people's time, that you're serious about investing, and you'd be surprised getting into these programs, getting the education you need, and then you automatically are looking at connecting with people who have, oh, I have $100,000 because I have a really successful business. Oh, I have $500,000 because I just sold my house, or I just inherited a house and I sold it, and now I have $300,000. I don't know what to do with it. Not everybody's a real estate expert. So this is where you need to become the expert if this is the field that you want to join, because the money's out there. People just don't know anything about real estate to invest into it, so they're scared.
That's good. I want to go back to the villa really quick,
Yeah.
for a minute. So the villa, I'm looking at it right now on Airbnb.com. It's 7 bedrooms, 2 baths, can fit about 10 guests. 7 beds, 6 bedrooms, 2 baths. Correct that. I'm looking at the design of it and all that. So the thing that popped up in my head is once the bank said, okay, this is how much you can get the property for, 180. You purchase a property. What was like the first step? You said you were kind of out there on your own initially. Were you involved in the process of re-renovating the property, or did you have to find people? How did you find people? What was like the first step once you were in there?
So this is why I created the course, right? So I literally walked through step by step what I did. So because I have fixing and flipping experience back in the States, it was less of a challenge in certain aspects of me getting in there and completing this project, right? But I had to connect with, it's building your network, right? You're connecting with other contractors. I have a really great contractor friend. His name is Javier. He helped me a lot with this project. He was a general contractor for this project. So when I wasn't there, he was my eyes and ears on the ground. So he helped manage the renovations. I obviously chose the material, chose the design, and managed the entire process. I was, you can say, the project manager, but he was the one boots on the ground, really getting in there and making sure everything was done properly. So that was what that process looked like. And then for me to get the experience, I just wanted to be out there. So I was the one going to Home Depot, going to IKEA, going to Costco, going to these local mechanical areas like ferreterias, they call them. To really understand what the process was, and just connecting with people, man. It's just connecting to locals, connecting with teams. But there's a whole process behind it. It's too much to really give you in detail, but this is what the course lines out so that you understand specifically what do the contracts look like, how do you find good contractors, how do you stay away and prevent bad contractors, how do you pick material, how do you pick design, how do you put this deal together. So it's really an entire process.
Absolutely. I was speaking of material and design. I know that's in your course, but what was your process? Where did you get inspiration from? Did you look at other comps and say, hey, I want to take a little bit from this property? What did that process look like for you?
So you can, it's creating a vision board really helps a lot. So like you pick a room. Every room is a box, if you want to look at it in a simple way. You have a kitchen, you have a bathroom, you have a bedroom, you have a dining room. Pick the boxes and start looking online. Like on Facebook, they have a lot of good interior design websites. Pinterest has a lot of good sites that gives you different examples of what the property could potentially look like. Home Depot, you go online just to see what they have. I like to visit them to see what tiles they have available and kind of putting the pieces together there. And then picking tiles based off each room. So you can have like a vision board and say, hey, I want my kitchen to look like this, my dining room to look like this, my bedrooms to look like this. And you start organizing all your thoughts on paper, so it makes it a lot easier. You can hire a designer, you can hire an architect, you can hire people out. But if you want to do it in-house and cut some of those costs, and it's really being creative and just finding different things online. Even Instagram has a lot of great sites. And like you said, watching your competition, seeing what they have and what works for them and kind of replicating it or making it your own with a little twist.
How close is the nearest Airbnb to this location in this area? Is there like one in a couple miles away, or is this the
There's
only one?
several. There's several.
Okay,
There's a couple that are a couple miles away. The there's one that actually performs better than us. It's a more luxurious Airbnb.
mm.
It's probably like a mile or two away. They're averaging 700 plus a night.
How do you
But I
know that?
believe I believe they have either more bedrooms or they're more luxurious than what we are. So you also need to
Okay,
understand, if I charge 700, I might not get it because my competition's getting that. So I'm more like in the middle, right? And
got you.
I'm
Oh, I
I'm
see. I
looking
see.
for ways to continue to improve and grow, and that's gonna be based off the experience, the amenities, the reviews that you get online. That helps you increase your prices, and then I use Price Labs, which also
Mm-hmm.
automatically will fluctuate the pricing on the back end, which I also teach about,
Mm.
so that you can get, because there's some days that I'll get anywhere between $500 to $1,000 for the night because
Mm-hmm.
of Price Labs. It'll fluctuate based on demand. When Bad Bunny announced his concert, my August filled up very quickly and the prices went up automatically.
Mm.
So then I
Wow,
captured I
interesting.
captured that market because of technology, which is another thing that a lot of the Airbnb owners lack. So like there's obviously a lot of competition anywhere you go with anything. Airbnb, some areas are oversaturated in parts of Puerto Rico, but you got to find ways to differentiate yourself from everybody
Right,
else. And
right.
that's where the opportunities are, right? That's where you start seeing like, okay, well, they have bad customer service. I'm going to get 5 stars because I'm going to give stellar service. They don't have a pool. I'm going to build out a pool because it adds 30% more revenue by adding a pool. So that makes sense. So like
Mm.
it's just so much behind it, bro, and it kills me when these influencers or gurus just like, oh, go buy these properties in here and make
Yeah,
money.
there's a
Yes, you
lot
can make
to it.
money, but it is a process. And to me, as long as you're okay with knowing that there's a process behind it, that's why we're hitting 10, $15,000 a month. Like this could be somebody's income that replaces their income. Like
Right.
gross, right? And this is the difference between gross and net. Gross, we're making 10 to 15, but on the months that we're seeing 15, we're seeing net about $9,000 net for the month.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
somebody's entire income. That could even be a
For sure.
couple's income. So
For
that's just
sure.
and that's just
100%.
one property. So this is what I'm saying. There's opportunity, and now I can start working and scaling because now that I built the system, I've proven the concept. Now it's like, how do I scale it?
Yeah, 100%.
Need to
Before we
grow.
get into that, man, I do want to hit on um, the Airbnb site just real quick.
Well,
So I know for you to get ranked, reviews helps a lot. But what else helps out? Does SEO help out? I know maybe having high quality photo helps out. But what else helps out when people are searching up? Like, how do you get your property to be on the first page of Airbnb?
you have to become a super host for it to
Mm.
so to become a super host, you have to have no cancellations. You have to have like 4.8, 4.9 stars like for
Wait,
3 months.
you you can't have cancellations, or the guests can't
I
be
can't have
canceling?
cancellations. So like I
Okay,
can't cancel on somebody because
got you,
like something happened in the property. Like my property needs to be on point.
got you,
So I don't
got you,
have any
got you.
cancellations. So there's different criteria as far as hitting that super host status, which will get you posted. The reviews are gonna help too because obviously the more reviews you have, the more likely the algorithm is gonna pick you up on Airbnb to post you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then on the side, marketing, right? So I have an Instagram page that has over 10,000 followers
Mm-hmm.
that's for the villa, right? So
For sure,
promoting it,
yeah.
I create videos. I had one video that went viral the other day, had over 150,000 views, over
Wow.
9,000 likes. So posting consistently helps. Having your own website with direct bookings also helps because it helps the SEO. But it's like Airbnb is a business, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's like the same way you would market a restaurant, you would market your own services. You need to continue to market your Airbnb, whether it's social media, whether it's through the web, and yes, you are handling the SEO, but you need to be seen and you need to put yourself out there. Collaborations have helped me a lot with influencers.
I was
I
just
do a
gonna
lot.
ask that initially. Did you reach out to anybody and say, "Yo, come stay here, take
I had
pictures and videos"?
Yep. I had a kid who played the part of a younger Mike Towers. So I guess he was
Mm,
hired out to play the role of Mike Towers when he was a kid. He called me out of nowhere. He was like, "Hey, I charged 250." Had like over 47,000 followers. I charge 250. I'll go to your house, do a video, and I'll promote you on my page. I saw that he had posted a picture with Mike Towers. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Go ahead. Went to the house, posted it, had over like 40,000 views. I got over 300 followers just from him posting. And just connecting with the influencers, whether you want to offer them a free night, do a collaboration, or if they charge you and you want to pay them, then you have content that you can continually post on your
mm,
Instagram.
that's
There's
good.
so much, but you got to treat this as a business, which is why it's great to just dive deep into one aspect. So if you want to invest in short-term rentals, just dive deep into short-term rentals, because
Mm,
long-term rentals, mid-term rentals, by doing co-living, buying subject to, there's so much in real estate. There's a whole world behind it. What I
for
care
sure.
about for people is, what are your goals? How much do you want to be making per month? Or better yet, how much do you need to make per month to replace your income, to
Mm,
either supplement it or to help you replace your income? When people start with the end goal, it makes this process so much easier, because then instead of buying 3, 4 properties that make them $100, $200 in cash flow, focus on one really good property. And that's what I did. I
mm,
told you, at one point I had 12 properties in Ohio, sold them. They were too
mm.
much headache for less than $1,000 in cash flow. It didn't make any sense. I was stuck with, I want to buy over 100 houses or 100 properties. But at the end of the day, I'm just like, you know what? I just care more about the cash flow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So to
Yeah.
me, it's the cash flow. So I got rid of everything and just started focusing on one. And the difference is, I went from making $1,000, $2,000 a month in cash flow with 10 houses to four,
Crazy.
five, $9,000 in cash flow with just
With
one
one.
really good property. Now, how do I
Yeah.
replicate it and continue to scale and grow? That's really the key factor. And that's why I'm focusing on teaching people how to get their own Airbnbs, even if it's outside of the States, in the US, just teaching people how to invest into short-term rentals the right way, so that they can also have success and potentially replace their income.
Yeah. So we got a couple more minutes, man. I don't want to take you too long,
Now
but
you're
I'm
good.
curious, is this rinse and repeat process. So you have a proof of concept. You can potentially go to more investors if you want. Say, hey, I've done this. This is what we're making. This is the numbers. Um, what's next for you? What would like the next 2 to 3 years look like? Would you want to continue to? You let me know what you want to do with this process. Do you want to continue to create properties that are similar to what you already have? Do you want to do something completely different? What are your thoughts?
I want to stay consistent. I've
Okay.
changed so much, I mean, throughout the years, and it's honestly because of a lot of the changes that happen in the market. If I were
Mm-hmm.
to stay in the restaurant business, I wouldn't be seeing the success I have today. So for the time being, I really do want to continue to focus on the short-term rental business. I can find good deals, put them together with other investors. I really would love to scale. Um, the goal would be to at least get 5 or 10 more properties like this, because even if I just manage them as an Airbnb host, which they charge 25%, but 25% of 10,000 a month is 2,500. So managing 5 to 10 of those, for example, would be $25,000 coming in per month.
Mm-hmm.
So to some people that could be a low number, which to my surprise, it's the people that you connect with, because there's people that make $100,000 a month or more.
Right.
But to other people, that's like a really good, like, wow, 25,000, that's a great number. Even $10,000 a month will get
Mm-hmm.
rid of a lot of the jobs that people have. So to answer your question, scaling the model that I have now is my goal for these next couple of years. But bringing and teaching people along with me is my goal as well. I would love to have at least 100 investors that are learning from me, to replicate the model and to potentially get their own financial independence. Because if you talk about Latin wealth comes with real estate, right? You need to have some sort of real estate to continue your wealth and build that passive income that people love and talk about. But you need to do it with a proper strategy. Start with the end goal and work your way backwards. Get the education and mentorship that you need to surround yourself with the right people. And then the process becomes a lot more feasible and realistic versus you just saying, hey, I want to make $10,000 a month with real estate. Great. How? They stay quiet. They don't know. And that's where we come in and educate them.
I love that. Look, this has been a phenomenal conversation, man. I really appreciate you for your time. Like I said, would love to, when it's available, come by the property, maybe tour the property, take some content there and whatnot. But let the people know where they can find you, where they can reach out to you. I know you mentioned you have a course that's coming out. Really? Talk to us about that, and we'll get you out of here.
Yeah, bro. Appreciate that. So if they want to see the villa, it's at viavista_PR. To get in contact with me, it would be through Instagram at Roberto Green Jr. And I would have a link there once the project is completed, the course is completed. The link will be available there for them to review it at Roberto Green Jr. They can contact me directly. They can book a call with me. I'm more than happy to do a 15-30-minute introductory call. Get to know each other. Obviously, this business is a lot about building rapport and trust. That to me is huge. So I love to connect with people that are interested in real estate but have some questions and then guide them in the right direction. So I can definitely do that for them. But more than happy to help, man. People can just contact me through Instagram and I respond really quickly within 24 hours.
Absolutely. And I'll leave the link to everything in the description of this podcast. And look, again, once again, we appreciate you big time. You guys know where to find us at Latin Wealth everywhere. And it's your boy Chris. We'll catch you guys next week.
Awesome.
Peace.
Thank you.